Hey, middle schoolers, I feel like it's been forever since I've had the chance to make a video for y'all. We have started this awesome new series called This or That. And for those of you who showed up on Sunday, you got to hear it on Sunday morning in person. But don't worry, all these videos are still going to make their way onto YouTube. So, this or that, we're kind of talking about comparison. We all struggle with this idea of comparison when we measure our this with their that, regardless of what it is. And one of the most powerful feelings of comparison is this feeling of jealousy. Now, I've had jealousy before. You know, if you've got friends and they've got all the cool friends and they're super awesome and they've got all this stuff, it kind of stirs up this feeling of jealousy. Now, jealousy is what we feel when we want what someone else has. It has the potential to do some real harm with ourselves and with others. Jealousy usually can make us feel insecure, can make us feel uncertain, it can make us feel angry, it can make us feel unhappy with the things in our lives. And some of us don't often experience jealousy because we feel good about what's going on in our lives. And we may even look down on some other people who don't have as much stuff as we do. Comparison ends up being like this cycle. When you start comparing yourselves to other people, you eventually get that thing that you've been wanting so badly. But it doesn't stop there, because there's always something else down the line that you really, really want. That jealousy kind of perks itself up, and you're stuck in this loop of always trying to get the next big thing. Jealousy isn't something that just impacts us, though. It impacts all of our relationships. It impacts our friends, it impacts our family, and it can even impact our relationship with God. And it can cause us to end up avoiding people around us. We don't talk to them, we don't hang out with them as much, and we even start, resenting them for the things that they do have. But here's the thing. When God made us, when God made humanity, jealousy was not a part of His original plan. It was not a part of His original design. So, what is His original design? What is His original plan? And how can we combat this thing called jealousy? Well, here's what we're going to do. The answer is in Scripture. The answer is in the Bible. So, we're going to dig into one of those stories that kind of lends itself to how we can deal with jealousy. So the story that we're going to be looking into is the story of David and Saul. Now, a lot of you know the story of David and Goliath, and this is where the story kind of blooms. This is where we see the start of this story. So Saul had called for someone to fight the Philistine Goliath, and guess what? David stood up and took on the challenge. And not only that, he trusted that the Lord was going to protect him, and that's what happened. David eventually beat Goliath. We've all heard that story. But what keeps on going is when they actually get back, this is what the crowd starts doing. They start cheering for Saul and saying he has conquered his many thousands. But then they say David has conquered his many tens of thousands. Thousands, tens of thousands. Thousands is still a lot, but Saul wasn't happy with it because he was jealous over David's accomplishments. And that jealousy started just to rise up in him. And this is where we're in 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 8 through 9. It says this. This made Saul very angry. "What's this?" he said. "They credit David with ten thousands, and me with only thousands. Next they'll be making him their king." So from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. Just so you're clear, they threw jealousy in there just to let you know that Saul was feeling jealousy. And just like that, jealousy changed the entire way that Saul saw David in their relationship. And eventually, jealousy changed the way that he treated David. He started treating David very badly. He even got to the point where he tried to kill him at dinner with his best friend there. That's a whole other crazy story. And I know that this is a dramatic story, but when we compare ourselves to other people, we end up not celebrating others and ourselves in the process. Celebration is the counter-argument to jealousy. When we celebrate all the things that God has blessed us with, then we are pushing jealousy out. Now, there's another book in the Bible called Proverbs from our boy Solomon, who is David's son. So he's a pretty awesome guy. And we actually read some Proverbs last week, but this is what it says in Proverbs 14, verse 30. "A heart of peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones." Envy is really just another word for jealousy, but rots the bones. That's a really descriptive way to say just like eating away at you. Jealousy impacts our lives from the inside out. And this is what Solomon's telling us in Proverbs, that if we let our heart move from a place of peace and move into this place of envy and jealousy, then our very bones will start to rot. And it's really an awful picture of what jealousy does to the core of who we are. Jealousy rots you to the core. It decays and it breaks you down. It eats you from the inside out. See, this jealousy and envy is what happened to Saul. That just rotted everything in him, even his sanity. Again, like I said, he went crazy with his jealousy and frustration towards David. And David was really hurt by Saul's jealousy. He never went down the road where he compared himself to Saul, but Saul was comparing himself to David. And the reason that David was able to not go down that road of comparison is because he kept his eye on what God's plan was for David. He kept his eye on what God's plan was for his life. And because of that, because of God working through his life and reminding him of that he has control, David was able to experience that peace, and his heart stayed away from all that craziness. And the same can be true for us. When we keep our eyes focused on God's plan for us and how God's hand is in control of everything, we find that peace. We stop focusing on what other people have and what other people are doing, and it creates us a space that we can enjoy our lives better. Because the truth here is this: when we stop celebrating or when we stop comparing, we can better celebrate others and ourselves. So how can we avoid falling into jealousy? How can we stay away from that bone-rotting envy? And how can we choose to celebrate others and ourselves instead? Well, we can begin with two things. The first one is start with you. There is stuff that God has put in your life that is worth celebrating. You've got friends, you've got family, you've got a home, you're able to go to school. All of these things are great, but the most important over all of that is hopefully you have a relationship with Jesus. That is incredible and definitely worth celebrating. We celebrated baptisms last week where the whole church came together and celebrated people and their relationship with Jesus. The second one is this, and we talked about it: celebrate someone else. When we move away from comparing ourselves to other people and move into celebrating the things that God is doing in people's lives, it moves us out of that stage of jealousy. You want to try and find a way to celebrate the person that maybe even you're jealous about. If you're jealous of your siblings, celebrate some of the amazing and awesome things that they've done. And more important than that, like I said, we celebrated baptisms. We're celebrating what's going on in someone else's life. And it's huge because that celebration, instead of rotting our bones like jealousy does, it builds them up. It's like drinking a really big glass of milk and you get big, strong bones. But here's what I want you to do. We talked about celebrating. Some of us probably aren't the best celebrators. So here's what we're going to do. I've got some gifts we're going to play. I want to see how well you can celebrate. Oh yeah. Look at that. Look at him go. Look at him go. Come on. I know you can do this. You can do this at home. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Celebrate good times. Come on. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so now here's the deal. We all should be like super expert celebrators, and you know, it's all pretty amazing, especially if you did it in your room. Some people may have given you an odd look. Doesn't matter. You are now an expert celebrator. So this week, whenever you choose to take that step into celebration, you can celebrate all the good things that God has put into your life and in the lives of people around you. Because when we stop comparing, we can better celebrate ourselves. So that's it, guys. Week 2 of this or that. And I'm so happy you got a chance to join us for today. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe and the notifications and all of that. Also, remember, we are back in person at both locations on Sunday mornings at 10:45. It's 10:45. Yes. So if you're ready to come back, please go ahead and register. You can RSVP with your families, so then that way we can prepare for you and we can celebrate you. Anyways, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.